take you back to Tehran and reporter Sarbas Nazari, where we were just about to discuss the anti-government protests, the anger and frustration on the streets of Tehran over the fact that the Iranian government, it took them 3 days to admit that it was one of their missiles that brought down that passenger plane, killing all 176 people on board. Sarbas, tell us more about these protests. Are they still continuing? And what about the harsh response from authorities, from riot police? What are you hearing?
Asiya, yeah, they are still continuing. Today, the heavy police presence in Tehran and the other big cities was much more visible. I mean, compared to the previous days. Still, there were protests held at university campuses and on the streets in almost all big cities. The police response so far, of course, has not been as harsh as it used to be in the previous rounds of rallies. Of course, we are talking in Iranian terms and standards, like in November, where from the very outset, live bullets were fired. It appears that despite the very radical slogans, the state, at least for now, is exercising a policy of restraint. We know that the judiciary chief came out today in full support of the Revolutionary Guard and warned of action against rallies. But the typical iron fist has not yet resurfaced. This is perhaps because of the nature of the new crisis in which Iran's behavior is being closely watched. However, the government has almost done nothing to close some files and answer some lingering questions, like why the truth came out after 3 days, and did the Revolutionary Guards really keep the government in the dark? Because at a press briefing today, the spokesman for the government suggested that they had been treated as strangers by the guards, saying even President Rouhani was unaware until 2.5 days after the tragedy. And that could perhaps suggest rifts within the ruling elite.
Sarbas, there are so many questions at this point. One of them is, will the family of the victims be allowed to mourn in some official capacity? Will the Iranian government hold a memorial to honor all these victims like they did for General Qasem Soleimani?
Well, it has never been easy to discern through the Iranian government's complicated handling of crises. And the same, I believe, holds true about the people's political behavior, of course. But if the government organizes massive funerals for those killed in the crash, they would be, to some extent, able to manage to cool things off. But that could be at the same time tricky as well, because the same funerals may turn into anti-government rallies that might spiral out of control. So also we know that there's a sweeping wave of boycott trending among popular artists, and many believe if the government manages to send people to their homes using force, it will be just a short-term memory. It definitely needs a workable solution because the government needs these very people to participate in the parliamentary elections in a few weeks.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Sarbas Nazari, thank you for that update.